Hello to the ladies, hello to the gentlemen, hello chess chicos and chicas. Welcome back to a new video, which is going to be a very unique one because somewhat uncharacteristically I'm going to blow my own trumpet a little bit, whilst also am praising a student. Very interesting story. As most of you guys would know, a couple of videos ago I released a video about the xiangqi bishop. And in what positions should it be traded and what positions it shouldn't be traded. And 3-4 days after the release of the video, I was streaming, and I was playing actually against a guy who is a YouTube subscriber of mine. And so we kicked off the game with this, which of course is part of the video I'm talking about. And at this point I'm like, dude, did you see the video I released? And he goes, no. Actually, I asked it right here, and you can see the reason. Question mark, exclamation mark. And then I had a very, very awesome chat with the chat on Twitch about the fact that, wow, nothing like this when you make a YouTube video and it instantly becomes, or could become instantly very, very useful. And as a matter of fact, on stream, I actually brought up the video to show it to the audience and to show them that we have an identical position in this YouTube video right here, which I'm now playing. Whenever you are trading except bishop, that the colors are reversed. So if you look at the position here and here, this is the very position we are looking at in the YouTube video with reverse colors, Queen D2 being played. So it was kind of awesome to be able to make that connection of, we are playing this, and I just made a video about this, guys. So maybe there's some value in these YouTube thingy-mobobbies if you watch them carefully. Anyway, so the video is predominantly about the fact that this bishop is very often traded incorrectly by white or black, depending on what side of the fianchetto we are on. But in particular, in this Marozzi bind, usually white is aiming to keep these bishops on, because if these two disappear, this bishop is going to be really, really awful. And so my opponent on stream played knight e5, and then I took e5, queen back, knight c5, b4. This is all what this whole entire dark squared bishop trade is about. And then look at the juicy d4 square, and then look at the good knight bad bishop. And I even talk about this in the video too. So if we go back, you will see that the video discusses potential outcomes here. The bishops. What is it going to do in the next 40 minutes? Why is this not really a good bishop for black? Nothing at all. It's because, as you can see in the structure here, but you have already seen this video, it's not attacking anything. And then I go, look at this. Like here I talk about how e5 followed by knight e6, knight e4 is the plan, and then we play out the exact same story in the game like so. Now, of course, this was hugely satisfying to me in the sense that, you know, I sort of acted out what I'm preaching, but also because I feel like if it occurred in my game, then it could have occurred in anybody's game at any given time. And so this is really an awesome feedback to any educator, that if you put out an educational content and then it sort of becomes instantly usable, that's a great feedback. Anyway, well, obviously it was me first who used it, but the story is going to get a little bit better than that. So nothing of a perfect game, by the way, by any means by me. I just played a few iffy moves, this one being one of them. But actually I was very proud of it, because I realized that after rook c1, first of all, I played queen b6, by the way, to even eliminate the slightest chances of this very annoying exchange sack. But I also realized that the main avenue where I'm going to win the game is not going to be the c file, it's going to be the a file. And so I happily surrendered the c file to my opponent, because I realized that although c7 is a penetration point, but rook c7 is a waste of a move for all intents and purposes, it does nothing, and immediately counterattacked with a5. And you can see that after a possible take-take, it's me who is going to be in charge with rook across, or even just queen back, and targeting this very soft, weak pawn, whilst there is not an awful lot going on the c file. Truth to be told, I think my preference would have been queen takes though, because with the queens off, these differences will present themselves even more effectively. Anyway, he played a3. Okay, let's pretend that no one saw this. Oopsie daisy. But at least it came to a very thematic finish with the amazingly good knight and an absolutely woeful bishop. And I went on to win without too many dramas. And then I told the guy that maybe it's time to watch the video. And he went like, yeah, I think I should check it out. Yeah, a fairly easy victory for black. And then a few more days, in fact, almost a full week went past. I streamed a few more times. And then a student of mine sends me a very, very happy Skype message saying, check this out, boss. And sends me this game. Right, so student black, and I'm like, okay, show me what you got. And by now I'm like, I think I know where this is headed. So we carry on, da-di-da-di, yada yada yada. By the way, cheerio. That's the boss, by the way. Knight d7. An opponent plays b4. Now I do think that this move is recommended in one book or another, I can't remember where, but this is actually not that great. And I vaguely recall that when I was a kid, around 14, 15, 16, we had a coaching session with my coach where we regularly analyzed these positions from a Russian/Soviet book, which I think was written by Chereshevsky, but for the life of me I can't recall. And here actually my student made a mistake by playing b6, because the correct move here is actually queen b6. Trading the queens with the idea again of aiming for this classic case of good knight, bad bishop. And although this position is nowhere near as good as the previous one was, even here the black's chances are definitely slightly favorable due to the better minor piece. Anyway, we played b6, wasn't quite perfect. We followed it up with a5, which is absolutely mint. And here the opponent plays b5, which in my book is a double question mark positional blunder. The engine reckons is the second best move. Go figure. Because the problem here is that it gives up the c5 square. Now obviously the engine knows better, and the engine thinks that the knight on c5 means that there will be two pieces on the queen's side and white might get a dangerous attack. Possible, but still, as a human, you would be extremely reluctant to give up a square like this. And from here on, student actually plays pretty very good chess. 1800, by the way, against a 1988. So giant gap there to be covered too. h5, e5. I love this move. A very, very awesome pawn sacrifice in order to expose those weak dark squares. Take, take. Queen e3. I don't know why they didn't take. But after queen d2, black stops h6. Prepares this annoying check. The rook is incoming on d8. It feels like we have got something. Not a lot, but the dark squares are very, very pleasantly ours. The bishop is useless. The knight is just picture perfect beauty, and e4 is quite a bit under pressure. So overall, I think that the engine's evaluation here being white better, clearly, is a little bit exaggerated. Anyway, queen e3, queen h4, another mistake by student here. Queen d4 would have won on the spot because the queens are coming off, and again we are entering the dream endgame with good knight, bad bishop. But, as you will see, this endgame is about to pop on the board anyway, because after tuck-tuck, everything comes off. And student remember this very, very well, that this endgame with this terrible bishop versus this awesome knight is your dream scenario. And look how he very, very cleverly plays for it. Take, take, rook f8, trading all the big guys off. Trading the knight for the bishop correctly, trading the queen correctly, and tada, here we go. We have got the perfect ending. Also note, he's already running to d6 with his king to blockade the pawn. Good knight, bad bishop. The rooks are eventually going to come off. Every single aspect of the position indicates an easy black victory. By the way, I need to stop here for a second because people so terribly misunderstand this. A lot of people would be incredibly reluctant to take this, saying that, oh, this is a protected pass pawn. And that's a terrible, terrible, absolutely awful misunderstanding of what this position is all about. Because whilst this may be a protected pass pawn, it's more of a weakness than a strength in white's position. So let me give you an idea. If white could choose to have this pawn, for example, back on f2, and I'm not saying it because that would attack the queen, but imagine this pawn being back here, black would have pretty decent chances of survival. With the pawn being on d5, those chances are significantly slimmer. Because what this means is that white has the opportunity or the option to make a pass pawn here. White can blockade this pawn, and this pawn also blocks the d file as well as this diagonal. So it basically is responsible for making both of the white pieces absolutely useless. And there is zero, absolutely zero reality in this pawn becoming anything other than a weakness. So overall, it is just a terrible thing, and this pawn wishes to be anywhere else on the board but where it is. And black very correctly runs to blockade the pawn like they should. And note how beautifully the black pieces are ready to exploit all these weak dark squares around the white pawn mass. Rook trade comes from the opponent, hoping to ease the pain, but in fact it increases it. Take, knight d7, and look at this again. In. And look at how utterly useless this protected pass pawn is. King in, a4, king in, pawn up, denying all kinds of crossings, and then king in. Beautiful play. Absolutely marvelous play by student. g4, knight f6 was also good. Whatever. King c2, that's going to the wrong direction, but that's more or less fine. King in d6, and now we just come back and eat up the pawn and win the game. That's actually a good example of how bad this this pawn is. Yeah, I'm trying to think about what the cleanest win is here for black. I mean, I wouldn't have played g4. Okay, so knight c5, bishop d1, king b2 looks like some kind of zugzwang, right? That is actually breathtakingly beautiful. Because now the bishop can't retain this. So if the bishop moves, I can just take this, and the knight still catches up with the pawn. See ya, wouldn't want to be ya. And if the king moves, then the e4 pawn drops. So that's game over. So they played d6, and then the king came back for the pawn, and black easily mopped this up. That was utterly unnecessary. He should have taken this, but in the end he wins very nicely in style by creating two pass pawns very far apart, and then jettisoning the knight for the pawn, or even just luring the king away, and then just choops, in we go. And this is a testament again to understanding that in an endgame you don't need to eat every single pawn that is on the board. Your goal is to create pass pawns that can run. And here the bishop is totally helpless to hold both of the pawns, and black went on to win without too many dramas. I didn't see the end of it, but yeah, whatever. Anyway, black goes on to win super duper easily. So now this is 2 out of 2. Like just within a couple of days after the video was released, where this position occurred either in my own games or in my students, and so I feel very, very satisfied and rewarded because of you know, I showed me, myself, and my students something, and it just occurred in practical games. So let's summarize one more time this trickery in this structure. So what we need to remember here is that this is a good bishop for white, and whilst this is not a bad bishop for black, it's certainly desired to trade these pieces, because that will guarantee black easier access to the dark squares. And once that access is acquired, then we carry on trying to exploit these weak dark squares. And by the way, here, instead of the somewhat rushed pawn sack, perhaps f6 would have been an even better move, with the idea of playing e5 next. Quite cool. Alright, so let's have a look. Bishop here, f3, e5, and if takes, I would take back with d probably. And again, we are ready to repeat the motive that I have done in my own game, and black is doing splendidly well. So, kudos to student for playing remarkably well in that game, despite of the mistakes. I think there is every reason to be very proud of him and his game. He will be very happy to see this too. So kudos to you. Well done, senor. Keep up the good work, and thank you guys for tuning in. I will be back with more soon. Bye.